Hi, this is Mrs McTaggart here. In this video we're going to be looking at something from the National 5 apps course, and it is box plots and a 5-figure summary. So this is not in normal Nat 5, but it is part of National 5 apps. Prior knowledge is you should be able to find the quartiles and semi-interquartile and interquartile range of a data set. So let's have a look. This is what a box plot looks like. It's basically 5 vertical lines plotted on a load of squares, and a lot of people say, oh, that wee thing that looks a bit like a syringe, and I think it does a wee bit when you see the two sides going out. So if that helps you remember it, that's great. So here is a box plot that's drawn. Now, a couple of things to point out is I've already labelled it. It won't be labelled like this. It's up to you to be able to pull off the important numbers that I've labelled at the top, such as L for lowest, Q1, Q2, Q3, and your highest number. So you could either be asked to draw a box plot, or you could be asked to interpret a question from a box plot. So for this one, I'm just going to quickly do the easy bits. We're going to say, right, the lowest number is 10, and the highest number, well, it's clearly going up in ones, so the highest number would be 33. Our Q1 is on 15. Our Q2 is 21, and our Q3 is 24. And that's all there is to it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do an example of this in reverse. So we're going to have a set of data, and we're going to find our quartiles, and our lowest and highest, and these 5 figures make what's called a 5-figure summary. So if you ever see that, that's all they're asking you to do, is to get your quartiles and your lowest and highest. And then we will plot them on a box plot. So my example, I've pulled this from a past paper. It's looking at the number of podcasts that Omar downloaded each month. So they're all shown below in that list of numbers. So the first thing I need to do is get that list of numbers into order. So I've already done that. I've skipped a wee bit. So my numbers in order. Double check, please, before you go and start getting the quartiles, that you have the same amount of numbers from your list. I've already double checked that I've got all 12 numbers. If you miss a number out, you will lose a wee mark for your quartiles, but you can still get the follow-on marks. So let's find the quartiles. We have 12 numbers. So in the middle would be we'd have 6 on the left and 6 on the right. So there actually isn't a middle number. It's going to be right here between the two 19s. And then on the lower half, we've got 6 numbers. So halfway, we'd split it with 3 and 3. And then the top half, again, 6 numbers are splitting at 3 and 3. So for this one, it's been split into 4 groups of 3. And all our interesting numbers are in between things. So let's do our 5-figure summary. So our lowest number will be 5. Our highest will be 34. I just always do them first. My Q1 is between 10 and 12, so 11. My Q2 is between 19 and 19, so it's just 19. Some people always kind of worry about that one sometimes. And my Q3 is between 22 and 26. Well, that's a gap of 4, so it's 2 away from each of them, so it's 24. Now, just watch, this one asks for interquartile range, so there's no halving bit for it. So remember, range is this highest take away lowest. They want the quartile range, so we're doing Q3 minus Q1. So our interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1, which in this case is 24 minus 11, and it's 13. So here's the main bit of the lesson. We are going to put this information into a box plot. So I'm just going to move this up a bit and make it a wee bit bigger so I've got a bit more space. So what I find with my pupils is the hardest thing is deciding how big does my box plot need to be. So if you look at our list of numbers, they go from 5 to 34. So your scale needs to represent that. Now, that doesn't mean I would start necessarily at number 5. I would always start from a multiple of 5 or 10 just before the numbers. So if my lowest number was 23, I'd probably start from 20. There's no need of starting away down at 0. So using my scale, I've got enough boxes here that I could easily just do that each box is 1. And that's what I'm going to do just now. So I'm going to start at 0. Oopsie daisy. So I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to call this 0. This will be 5. This would be 10, and so on. So there I've done it, and I've only gone as far as 35. Now, one little tip would be, when you're doing this, obviously I've got a little grid here. If you're doing this in a jotter or on a bit of paper, always start by drawing your scale line along the bottom, like so. Okay, so you can see mine standing out a wee bit there in the blue. Right, so what we then literally do is at your 5 numbers, your Q1, Q2, Q3, lowest and highest, we put a little vertical line. So when I draw mine, I'm not going to do it right down to basically like my scale at the bottom. I'm going to leave a couple of boxes. So I'm going to put a line at 5. Like so. I'm going to put a line at 11. Okay, so once you've done your box plot, they might ask you to compare it to another box plot and talk about the spread of the numbers. They quite often maybe will ask you something to do with your interquartile or semi-interquartile range and do some comparison there. So I've added this in as well. So remember my first part was talking about how many podcasts they downloaded. So for the podcasts, we had an interquartile range of 13. And for the films, it's telling us here, the interquartile range, the number of films they downloaded was 7. So we have to make one comparison about that. So the main thing to remember is whether we're talking about interquartile range, semi-interquartile range, or even if you've done standard deviation so far, they're all a measure of spread, of how spread out our numbers are. Okay, or how much they all vary from each other. And the higher the number, the higher the spread of the numbers. And if I'm teaching this in class, you'll see me with my hands like a little concertina or accordion, and I'll do the actions that if the number is small and I'll move my hands in close together, it means less varied. And if the number is big, I'll spread my hands out. I'm doing it right now, and I'll say the numbers are more varied. So small number close together, big number spread apart. Okay, so because of the films, and I always take the stance of the second bit of information they give us, the films interquartile range is lower, so that means the number of films he downloads are a lot less varied each month. So it's more consistent numbers he downloads each month, with the podcasts are a wee bit more all over the place. So we need to put that into a sentence. So we're going to write the number of podcasts. No, I said that wrong. The number of films Omar downloads is less varied than the podcasts. Now, you don't always have to say less varied. Less varied, there are more suitable words, or other suitable words rather. You could say less spread out. You could say they're closer together. They're more consistent. But I like less varied because less goes with low, whereas more kind of makes you think of a bigger number. So the whole more consistent thing, yes, does mean less varied, but I just think the wording sometimes confuses my pupils. And you don't need to say why that is, but if you wanted to, you could then say due to the lower interquartile range. And I'm just going to write IQR for short. Now, sometimes there might be another bit to this. So I might have told you the median. So they might have said that the median for this, I'm trying to think what the median was before. The median was 19, wasn't it? So the median this time could be, let's make it a lot smaller, let's make it 12. Now, remember, median is a type of average. You get taught mean, mode, range, median all together. They're types of averages. So if you were to write a sentence about that, I would then say on average instead of the word median. And I would say on average, because that 12 is lower than the 19 in the previous example, the number of films is less on average. So that would be my second sentence. On average, the number of films it downloads is less, purely because the median was lower. And that just means like the first 50% of your answers are a lot lower than the first 50% of the other answers. Anyway, I hope that's helped. Box plots, nice, safe marks for a lot of pupils if you simply can master the whole skill of drawing a suitable scale and spacing out your numbers. If I see mistakes, that's generally what it is. So thanks for watching it and good luck.